Hey, what's up guys? John here. I have a very unique prediction for 2022's real estate market that you're not going to hear anywhere else, and I'm almost positive. I'd be willing to bet money on this prediction that it happens exactly how I'm saying. So I've been in real estate since 2008, and at that point in time, it was mainly just mom and pop investors, a lot of people that were highly leveraged, people that had loans that simply shouldn't have had loans, and really just bad mortgages. The whole thing was a big mess, right? And at that point in time, when things really dumped, things really crashed, there was so much fear in the market that the only people out there going to really buy were people that had experience, people that had capital, people that were just educated. And they were going out there and buying up a lot of the distress in the market. And at that point in time, when I was living in Long Beach, California, what I noticed is that there was a real affordability in California. You could rent a nice apartment for $1,000, $1,200 a month, right? Now what we're seeing is a rent skyrocket across the board. We're seeing inflation. We're seeing all these things that everyone's aware of, right? But one thing that I think is very unique in this market is what's happened over the last 2 years. If we take a 10,000 foot overview of what's happened, the whole picture has been, we're here to help the middle class. We need to get through this. We need to give stimulus and unemployment benefits and PP loans, and we need to do this and do that. But if we've noticed what happens in most situations, the smart people always find a way to have the money of the people that are less educated, right? And it always just funnels up. That's why what we're seeing now is the stock market booming. We're seeing all of these big private equity companies and corporations. They're out there just positioning themselves, sucking up all the capital in the market and deploying it into hard real assets. And so a lot of people are saying, okay, well, they're doing it when prices are at all-time highs. This can't continue. They're going to lose their butts on this, right? Look at Zillow. They were talking about fire selling thousands of properties, and Preti & Partners said, hey, we'll come out and buy a bunch of properties, right? We look at Blackstone acquiring Home Partners of America and for a $6.3 billion deal and purchasing 17,000 homes at once. Look at BlackRock acquiring all these homes, literally buying neighborhoods one at a time. The big question is, how can they do that if prices resettle, right? Because we have a couple things happening right now. They're talking about 7 potential interest rate hikes in 2022, and they're also talking, well, they're already solidified, FEMA's 2.0 rating, which insurance prices are going to be going up in most markets. You talk to anyone that owns home, especially in Florida or Texas or California, anywhere, home insurance is likely going to be going up for those people, right? And so the home costs are going up, utility costs are going up, and mortgage rates are going up. So if you factor all that in with all of the other costs going up, such as used car prices, rents, everything, you think that there's an affordability crisis and rents are going to be pulling back to reality so people can live. But here's what I think is actually going to happen. I would bet 100% against that. I would actually think that the real estate market now is actually going to go through a unique transition. And this transition is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. And I've experienced this firsthand in my own life. So when I moved to California, I was right about to turn 18, 19. I moved to California in Long Beach. I lived right beside Cal State Long Beach with me and a couple of my buddies, right? And at that point in time, we rented a 2-bedroom apartment. And it was a room share situation where I had one bed here, and my buddy Doug had his bedroom here, or his bed here, and then my friend Pat and Blaine had their bedrooms next to us, right? Everyone paid $1,000. So $4,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and that was 2006. So $4,000 for a 2-bedroom. What I think is actually going to happen here is I believe that now with Zillow and Preti & Partners and BlackRock and Blackstone and all these corporations running out there buying up single-family homes, they have 2 options. They could A, reduce their cash flows on their assets, which I think is very unlikely, or B, come up with a unique scenario in which they can extract more value and force people into a renter nation scenario. And at that point in time, if they're renting, they have no way of getting out of it. So this is what I'm thinking. Even Bloomberg was talking about this, saying America should become a nation of renters. What I think they're going to be doing very soon is I think that they're going to say, hey, we need to find a solution to make Americans more together. And we need to find a solution where we can partner up, one individual with another. So I think there's already apps out there like this where you could find a roommate. But I think they're going to really start pushing this where they say, okay, if you believe in this political affiliation, if you believe in, this career type or this lifestyle, and you have this gym routine, you wake up at this hour. Like, everyone can build out their own profile, like Match.com or one of these dating apps. But you can fill out your own profile and you could match with people inside of your market that are like you. And then what would happen for Wall Street? Let's say, for example, they owned a traditional, just for a one house example, a traditional 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot house in Central Florida. They paid $300,000 for, and they're renting it for $2,500 a month, right? It's 3 bedrooms. They could simply put 5 people or 6 people in that house that match up together, and instead of them getting $2,500 a month, they could rent each bed for $1,000 or each bed for $800, right? So each room they could pull $1,600. They could pull $4,500 or more per house. So they might be able to increase rents another 60 or 70% on every house that they do that to. Then they could have upsell scenarios like, hey, we're offering this service and that service for an extra $50 or $100, $200 a month, and they could bring out all these upsells, right? They could pitch this as a way of, this is a great scenario and a great situation to where we can combat the rising cost of food, because if you have roommates, you guys can contribute to food expenses. You guys can have a potluck situation where everyone's contributing, and once a week everyone could commit to their day of making food for the house. People will, believe it or not, jump to this. And I believe if we look at what happened with Uber and Lyft, people thought that was crazy. No way someone's going to hop in the car with somebody else that they don't know. But now everyone does Uber and Lyft, right? It's become very normal. I think the same thing is about to happen with housing. And I think that Wall Street, they're sitting back, they're saying, okay, a large chunk of the housing stock right now is owned by mom and pop investors. I think it's like roughly 75, 76%, somewhere around that realm, is owned by small mom and pop investors and individuals, right? And with rising insurance costs and rising mortgage rates, and a lot of people are on adjustable mortgages, a lot of people are struggling financially, and this is going to impact the debt to income ratios in which people initially qualified for these mortgages. So what I think is ultimately going to happen is there could be a shakeout in the middle class of what people can actually afford in the coming 6 months or a year. And if they end up selling, what could happen is we could see banks holding debt or bad debt from borrowers that are in delinquency. And we could see, equity companies just going out there saying, hey, yeah, I'll buy $3 billion in bad loans associated with these assets, and they just take over the deeds, they throw them in the portfolio, and then that portfolio lists them on this website, and then boom, they're able to get rid of housing stock. Like in 2008, for example, you didn't have those options. So in 2008, I was a realtor in Long Beach in 2008. So 2008, everyone just listed on the MLS. They throw a for sale sign and they hope to get some calls and list it, and they sold one at a time. And the banks, they would have to pay 6%. They pay 5% to the realtor and another percent or so with escrow fees and transfer taxes and all that stuff. So on a $100,000 house, they have to pay 6%, right? So they pay $6,000 for every $100,000 property that they sold in fees. But if they can now just start selling books of business to these private equity, or books of debt to these private equity firms, I think that's what they're going to start to do. So I think we're going to be stepping into a unique scenario. I don't think we're going to see the massive pullback, but I do think we're going to see creative ways in which Wall Street is going to try to extract liquidity and capital and net worth from the average middle class household in America. A really good example of this. Look at Facebook 2 years ago. When everyone was like, oh, you have to work from home. Facebook is like, I'm going to give you, I think it was a couple $100 million so you guys can advertise online. And what'd they do with that? They brought more business to Facebook, and then one business would have to compete with another business for that same customer, and they just jacked up ad cost. The same thing is going to start to, I think, become true with Wall Street doing this. So I do believe it's going to be, there's only 2 options. One is that Wall Street is going to have to bring prices down on rentals because people simply won't be able to afford it. Or B, Wall Street's going to get creative to bring up cash flow. You answer the question. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to take a loss and they're going to drop rents or keep them the same, or you think they're going to try to pull another 30 or 40% or more of cash flow, right? With the internet, with technology, it's so easy to manage this situation. They literally could just throw it all on an app, and they could have some people managing the app, and when someone wants to move out, they can literally just move out, and then they can list their unit or their bed on that app. And then within 30 days, that person would move out and the new person would come in. There'd be a house cleaner that would come in there, clean the house. They'd pay a $200 fee for the housekeeper. And then boom, new person comes in, and then the deposit is automatically refunded back to that person that moved out. I think that's kind of where we're going to be going in the housing market. I think it's going to be unique. I think it's going to be different. And I think that with this scenario, Wall Street will be able to continually increase rents over time to a point to where I think the returns that they're going to find on these deals is going to be unbelievable. They're not going to be able to find these returns in almost any other asset class. There's nothing more secure and stable than single-family rentals, single-family housing, because people always need a place to live. But drop your comments below. Do you think that I'm correct? Do you think that we're going to move into a scenario in which we move to shared housing and we're going to start to see this more and more? Or do you think Wall Street is simply just going to have to drop their rental rates to respect the quality of life that Americans deserve? Drop your comments. Let me know your thoughts on this. Subscribe here. Consider subbing on my TikTok for short form content. Post there a few times a day. If you have any specific questions, comment them on TikTok and I'll respond with a video. All right, guys, catch you later.